And welcome to We Believe Digital News Break. We're here Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 noon Central Standard Time. So happy that you're joining us. My name's Chris Young. I've got a list of news stories to share with you. Hopefully some especially that you'll find interesting. Others you may have heard pieces of before, but hopefully we can add a different, little bit of a broader perspective. We Believe Digital is an emerging media company here in Jackson, Mississippi, owned and operated by African Americans that are intent on providing a voice for others that is not often heard in other media venues, and I'm just one of the lucky guys to be able to be a part of that. So. Give us a look, webelievedigital.com. You can always call in and see, ask questions, find out what's going on. We have opportunities here for people really trying to grow, cutting commercials, doing ads for podcast shows, placing ads, creating your own podcast show, help you figure out the graphics and all that kind of stuff so that you can move your brand forward and you can bring your products and services to the marketplace via our very unique We Believe Digital studios. So let's get started today. A little overcast here in Jackson, heading into the weekend, looking for some storms coming up this afternoon and maybe into this evening. Texas was really getting hammered this morning, but they say we'll have some moderate rains, some moderate rainstorms, but nothing severe is forecast as we speak right now. And it looks like tomorrow going to be a great day. So got a failing report card from the World Meteorological Organization. These people, are really focused on the climate worldwide and what's going on. And the leader of the organization, again, it's the World Meteorological Organization, their Secretary General, Petteri Taalas, Taalas, said that last year, 2022, now this is worldwide rather, climate change fueled extreme weather, affected tens of millions of people, was responsible to a large extent for driving food insecurity around the globe, boosted mass migration, people leaving areas that are just inundated with severe weather, and cost billions of dollars in loss and damage. So, whether it's the carbon emissions, the overall temperature, melting the ice caps, you'd be hard pressed, I think, to find reasonable people that, have maybe middle-aged folks that have been around for a while that would argue that our climate is becoming, regardless where we are, our climate is becoming harsher and harsher over time. I know I have a relative out in the West Coast, kind of the middle of the state, a place called Irvine, California, and they had, he's lived out there for 30 years, I think, and maybe longer than that, and they had rains recently that he said he doesn't think he's ever seen before in his time in California. So things are changing, and it's about time we need to really think about that and think about what we're doing to either advance this severe weather, this extreme weather, or push back on it a little bit. And along those lines, kind of a related story. This is a report that came from CNN early this morning. They say every year the textile industry uses 1.3 trillion gallons of water. You know what they're doing? They're dyeing clothes, colorizing garments. Okay, 1.3 trillion gallons of water to dye garments, enough to fill 2 million Olympic-sized swimming pools. And most of the water loaded with these harmful chemicals and dyes flows untreated into rivers and streams. Researchers, though, at the Khalifa University in Abu Dhabi, the UAE, United Arab Emirates, have created a new nanomaterial that, of all things, they found in shellfish. And that this nanomaterial, they say, can clean up these dyes and other pollutants in industrial wastewater. So they're just on the cusp of figuring out that this is doable, and we'll see where this goes from there. But isn't it great that we got people thinking about this issue and finding things in nature itself that that we can use to push back against our own greedy, pollution of the planet. While we make all this money for ourselves in these textile industries. Another story on the national, I assure you, not something of personal interest, but it is of interest to an awful lot of people. So, the king, the new King Charles, the latest in the line of kings and queens, over there, the place that ultimately brought so much evil and tyranny to this country in its infancy. He'll be coronated, have a big coronation ceremony coming up next week, early next month. I wanted to say the 6th, several day event, 6, 7, 8, or something like that in May. And America's Lionel Richie and Katy Perry have been asked to, they will, along with Italian phenomenal vocalist Andrea Bocelli, are the headliners for the music component, the music aspect, if you will, of King Charles' coronation ceremony. And I guess it's like in the U.S., like an inaugural, except they don't wear so much costumes and stuff. So, and they have a venue over there that's going to take in 20,000 people in person to watch the entire, and there's many more performers too, but those are the top 3 that I could see on the list, and many more people, of course, millions more watching on TV. It'll be one of those days where all the broadcast stations just tune into the coronation events and so forth. So coming up in just a couple of weeks, the coronation of King Charles. So big day for the Supreme Court today, and as of, I haven't checked in the last 30 minutes, but the Supreme Court is said to decide today, has a deadline of today, deciding whether or not to ban the drug that's used for abortions and miscarriages, mifepristone. It's the first medication in a 2-part series when women are getting an abortion or are dealing with a miscarriage, and been around for a long time. And the Supreme Court gets to decide, So when they overturned Roe, what they really did was push everything back to the states, and you see tons and tons of states are, really, going the total anti-abortion route, while others are not doing so at all. So it creates a hardship for a lot of people. Interestingly enough, somebody interviewed the doctor that developed mifepristone. So I'm going to struggle with this name, but I want to say that he's 96 years old, and is a French doctor, Etienne Emily Beaulieu. And he's the inventor of the drug, most commonly prescribed for abortions and miscarriage. And he did that in the 1980s. And he was asked about the impact of a potential ban As Americans face a potential ban if the Supreme Court, the highly conservative Supreme Court, goes in that direction. But the inventor said two things. He said it would be immoral not to continue the use of this historic drug. And the next thing he said really caught my eye, really caught my ear, rather. He said, it provides the woman with mastery of her situation. And I hope I don't forget that. Really, it seemed to really resonate with me. So many unplanned pregnancies, even when people are making efforts to try to prevent that from happening, still happens. And so these are enormous choices to be made. And obviously the woman ought to have the autonomy to be able to tend to her health and her growth and development in her own way. So we'll see what this Supreme Court decision is today, and we'll report back to you on next Wednesday. We heard about this terrible shooting in Kansas City. This young 16-year-old Ralph Yarl shot when he rang the doorbell of the wrong house, going to pick up his little brothers. Fine young man. And this guy, Andrew Lester, 84-year-old racist, shot him, wounded him severely, shouted a lot of things at him, don't be coming around here no more. And, the young man made a mistake. He pushed the wrong doorbell. And, anyway, Mr. Lester, the shooter, who's turned himself in to authorities but has since gotten bonded out with $200,000 or something. That man's grandson says that he wasn't shocked to hear about what happened because for years and years now that this Andrew Lester has been prone to weird, random, and racist things. Quote from the grandson. Tennessee House of Representatives Scotty Campbell. This is a middle-aged white man that led the charge to get what are referred to now as the Tennessee Three. Representatives Justin Jones, Representative Justin Pearson, and Representative Gloria Johnson kicked out. And just 2 weeks ago. Well, the two black guys, Representative Justin Jones and Justin Pearson, were expelled from the Mississippi legislature. Gloria Johnson, a white woman who stood in solidarity with them over expressing outrage over a lack of gun control issues, especially in light of the recent shootings in and around Nashville. She was spared of expulsion again, she's a white lady, and she was spared expulsion by one single vote. The other two were reinstated almost immediately following a nationwide outcry against this behavior. Well, the guy that led the charge, the Speaker, Scotty Campbell, resigned from his seat yesterday. How about that? He resigned from his seat yesterday following a report that he violated Tennessee General Assembly policy on workplace discrimination and harassment. A subcommittee had been looking into this, and according to the subcommittee memorandum and a copy of the Republicans' resignation letter, which was obtained by CNN affiliate WTVF, said that they said, look, what you're doing, and you got a history of it, is discriminatory and harassing, and and they didn't make any bones about it. So the guy gets sent the letter, and the next day he resigns. So how about that? Some progress there in Tennessee. Become a very red state over time, Tennessee. But at the same token, it's really good to see when right is right and wrong is wrong in certain places. So we come up to the end of the first segment now. Thank you so much for tuning in. When we come back, we'll hit on these stories in Mississippi and in Jackson, Mississippi. See you soon.
Looking for the hottest content in the city of Jackson and surrounding areas? Check out WeBelieveDigital.com. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We Believe Digital Podcast is here for all your podcasting needs.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, keepers of the knowledge for people who speak the truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippilink.com and click on Home Delivery.
Welcome back to the We Believe Digital Studios. We're glad you're joining us today. This is the Noon Hour News Break Show. We're starting our second segment, drifting from global and national news stories down into the Mississippi scene. And you know how often it's said that everything that happens in the state of Mississippi has something to do with race. And I just want to read to you 2007. Man, oh man, not too long ago. And I take this information from the Equal Justice Institute calendar, a $5, maybe $6 calendar that I buy each year, that really reminds us of our journey and all the hatred and pain that dispatched by white supremacists and I guess two white people that just can't abide by equality, and they just think that God has two sets of children. I guess I was raised that He had one set of children. We're all God's children, but not everybody's on with that. But in 2007, just taking a look back at the calendar. So on this date in 2007, white parents in Turner County, Georgia, protest a high school's decision to hold its first racially integrated prom. Previously, parents had organized private racially segregated proms for students. So, wow. Because, if you get some black kids in there, there's a very, as beautiful and handsome as so many are, that's going to mean less white students getting crowned queen and king of the prom. And some people just can't abide by that. But I think we're making progress there. Maybe not at the academies and charter schools so much, but in the normal, everyday public schools, no doubt. So that's a story from Georgia, but a lot of this, you see the similarity there with the mentality. And again, here it is, another day in Mississippi where, we have this massive, massive welfare scandal, which we'll give you another peek at in a second. But, up to $100 million pilfered by a Republican-controlled governor that supervises the agency heads. And what a scam. They created these nonprofit agencies. They funneled millions and millions of dollars around. But to this day, the Republican legislature has not had a hearing on this topic. So what does that tell you about their willingness to uphold their responsibilities under statute? under statute. So imagine if somebody broke into, their personal bank account and stole money out of it. Do you think they'd want to figure out what happened, what it was, who was responsible, and so forth? Not that there's not other people that are going to bring these critters to justice, but the idea that you're the legislative body of the state and you're not willing publicly through hearings to look into this TANF scandal, to shine a bright light on it. You want to keep it all in the dark by not having any hearings. Shameful behavior, really shameful behavior. Lacking honor. Another day, no Republican hearing in Mississippi on the TANF scandal. But speaking of that TANF scandal, Theodore Marvin DiBiase. Now, a lot of people know that name from wrestling folklore. His daddy, his grandfather, they had a bunch of wrestlers. And he's a 40-year-old man, lives in Madison, certainly. And on Thursday, a federal indictment was unsealed in Mississippi charging the former wrestler with misappropriating millions of dollars of these TANF monies, these federal safety net funds intended for needy families and low-income individuals in the state. And that comes from WJTV. So he was indicted, and he is fighting back hard already. There's reports coming out about him fighting back on that. Another story in Mississippi, a public defender. Now, I can't seem to locate the name of I don't know why they do that. A public defender has been appointed by the Mississippi Attorney General's office and is ready to try a former teacher. I can't wait to see the race of the public defender appointed, because the defendant is a black man in this case, and so this guy is going to defend this former teacher accused of sex crimes against his former students in Mississippi. Now, this is, God, I got to say this right, Okolona County, or the town of Okolona, and this man's name is Tashimi Wilson, and he's accused of photographing or making videos of 9 minors between the years of 2006 and 2016, a 10-year period of time while teaching at Armory High School. Officials said he targeted students in the high school's technology club, giving them cash or drugs to perform sex acts alone or with a blown-up doll. Craziness. But to do that to minors, there's so many forms of abuse, and of course they're all despicable beyond what the human words can tell. But when you commit sex crimes, there's a lot of things that can be recovered from, and there's a lot of things that can't, and as fully and completely as others, and these are tough. It's tough to hear this stuff, and so anyway, we'll see what that happens with that case. I mean, the behavior apparently ended in 2016. Here we are in 2023, and we're just getting him a public defender. I think he had an attorney before, but he fired the attorney. So that's the story with that. Also in Mississippi, a 19-year-old farm worker from South Africa, now that's a white person, suffocated to death in a Delta Farms grain bin last year because of the employer's negligence, according to a report and citations from the U.S. Department of Labor. A series of farms were fined last year behind the good work of the Mississippi Center for Justice. And what these white-owned farm workers in the Delta have been doing is misusing an H-2A visa program to bring in white farm workers from South Africa to replace black farm workers in the Mississippi Delta. And they pay them more money. So, if they pay them more money, is that about the bottom line? These people are operating businesses. So it really, really fascinating. And right under our noses here in the Mississippi Delta, the most fertile ground in America. So sadly, apparently there was a clog in the bottom of one of the bins, and 3 guys went into the bins to go to the bottom to attempt to dislodge the clog that was there. 2 of the guys made it out safely, and this other 19-year-old did not make it out safely, and they had to cut a hole in the side of the bin, and it took about 5 hours, so suffocated. So again, this was the Bare Bones Farms in Greenwood. This was part of a Mississippi Today investigation. They were just fined yesterday. One report said 90-some thousand, another said $123,000 for unsafe labor practices. Yeah, and that farm is owned by a doctor, Asa somebody, I should have written that down, but by a physician is the one that owns Bare Bones Farms, and bringing in these. You don't think the man named Asa maybe had something to do with bringing in the white workers? So yeah. Also, MDOT shifting from dying white farm workers in Black Mississippi Delta to MDOT. MDOT, the governor signed 2 bills yesterday, Senate Bill 3120 and House Bill 1642. Giving MDOT $2 billion for infrastructure repairs. Now that money, that funding begins on July 1st of this year and goes through the end of June next year. $2 billion infused. Now, I only saw a partial list of, the sites, the locations. I promise you, Jackson was not on that list. I promise you, Hinds County was not on the list that I saw. I did see Greenville, so I was glad to see that. But I only saw a list, like 5 different locations that they're doing these infrastructure, bridges, roads, and tunnels and stuff, improvements. But anyway, so the money's going to be out there. So hopefully, for as many Mississippians as possible, they'll have improved infrastructure here, in the next 14, 15 months or so. Also, the Governor Tate Reeves was on the news this morning telling folks that, the one thing he hadn't decided, he'd give himself another 48 hours to decide on whether or not he's going to approve or veto House Bill 1020, the Jackson takeover bill. But what he did say is that if he does approve it, I think he's doing a little fishing here, baiting the hook a little bit. He said that if he does approve it, he can guarantee that people in the CCID will have somebody pick up the phone when they call 911. So isn't that interesting that he wanted to put that out? Somehow or another, he did say that there's many capable Jackson police trying to do a good job, but that they're understaffed. And he did not add in his comments that they're understaffed because he won't approve giving them any money to hire more people. He didn't say that part of it in this news conference. So also, in Jackson this weekend, there's an African American wellness agency here that hosts an annual African American wellness walk. So those of you that have interest, hey, 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, early rise, 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. The walk starts out at the Russell C. Davis Planetarium, downtown Jackson. And with all the health disparities that we know about with African Americans, isn't that a great thing that they have this agency totally dedicated to African American wellness? So whatever they can do to get their message out there, talk to more and more people, hold walks like this, good stuff. And maybe, the day comes where we can lean towards more equity for African American health outcomes. Members of the Jackson City Council big story, and again, JTV, kind of focused on JTV today. Big story about the council members voting their concerns over the legal counsel when it comes to the lawsuit that was filed against the city by Richards. Because, earlier this year, Richards filed suit against the city of Jackson, claiming that you had many people chime in that theirs was the best bid and that should have been selected, but it wasn't selected. So we know they're now on their second one-year emergency deal, but they've still got the lawsuit pending. They want the larger contract. They want the larger deal. And they want a court of law to say that, one way or the other, they should have gotten it or they shouldn't. So the city attorney, Katoria Martin, who is just a fabulous, oh my goodness, how sharp she is. She just, I watched her Monday morning at a court hearing just reel off, no notes, no nothing, just reel off dates and times and people present and who was there and who wasn't and what they said. And she just has this amazing brain. And but she represents the mayor, but she also represents the city council. So they're kind of claiming, the city council is kind of claiming they're saying it's suspect. And maybe she's got a conflict of interest because she was involved in the negotiations with Richards and with the RFP to some extent and spoke about it many, many times. So apparently these majority of city council members, and we can guess who they are, we can guess rightly who they are, they don't think that she can walk and chew gum at the same time. But that would be in violation of her. I mean, why is this young, vibrant, bright African-American attorney, why would she jeopardize hers? She's just not going to do that. She's not going to shoot herself in the foot. So she knows where the lines are, and she always stays within the lines. At least that's what I've seen with my own eyes, the many, many meetings, dozens of meetings that I've seen her talk at. So anyway, we'll see how that goes. Certain members think it's a conflict of interest to have her continue. They want maybe the mayor or themselves to be able to hire outside counsel. So we do know that trash collection resumed Wednesday, 7 o'clock, following that 4-2 vote for a one-year emergency contract. Lots of work going on in the city right now. Lots of trash disappearing. Every street I go down, just about, I see these Richards workers out there. They're going to put us back in good shape in no time at all, no doubt about it. But we got to remember, the vote was 4-2 after all that shenanigans. The vote was 4-2. So the Republican president of the council, Ashby Foote, and Vernon Hartley continued, despite their public comments about compromise and saving the city money and this and that, they continued to vote against the contract. And then, of course, there's Kenny Stokes. But just so happens we've run out of time. So we want to wish you well. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. I noticed a free blues concert down in Crystal Springs on tomorrow, starting about 5 p.m. The music, something to think about. All kinds of events going on here in Jackson. Check out the Visit Jackson website. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back Wednesday at 12 noon. Stay safe out there.